Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, we'll discuss recently decided Arizona immigration and voting rights cases. Also tonight, we'll hear from the state's new Superintendent of Public Instruction, Diane Douglas, and we'll learn about the latest disquieting report on climate change. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. There have been 3 recent court rulings on Arizona cases involving illegal immigration issues, including one case that got the attention of the U.S. Supreme Court, at least one justice. Joining us now is ASU law professor Paul Bender. Always good to have you here. Got to go through these kind of quickly here because we got 3 to talk about. Let's start with this last vestige, it seems, of SB 1070. What's going on here?
Yeah, it's a part of SB 1070 that Judge Bolton had not ruled on previously in the big litigation that went to the Supreme Court. It's a provision that makes it a state crime to smuggle human beings for profit or commercial purpose. And smuggling human beings means transporting people who you know or have reason to know are illegal in the country. And the question is whether it's constitutional for a state to make moving an illegal alien a state crime. And Judge Bolton said that it was preempted, the statute was preempted by federal law for the same reasons that the Supreme Court held that most of 1070 is preempted. Immigration is something for the federal government. If the state wants to enforce federal immigration laws, they have to do it under the authority, with the cooperation of, under the direction of the Attorney General of the United States. And so if you stick with that, this is clearly unconstitutional because this lets the state go off on its own. After all, a state judge would decide who's here illegally or not. And that's inconsistent with the idea that the federal government is in control of immigration things.
So preemption, again, the major issue here.
Yeah, I would think preemption. And the Ninth Circuit's already decided a case on a statute very close to this one. It's distinguishable, but I don't think they'll think it's distinguishable.
Yeah.
And so this case, all 3 of these may be headed to the Supreme Court.
I was going to say, well, this first has to be appealed, but I think that's a foregone conclusion.
It will go to the Ninth Circuit, and if the Ninth Circuit agrees that it's unconstitutional, there's a good chance it goes to the Supreme Court.
The other one was involved the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals regarding this federal voting registration form as opposed to Arizona requirements for voter registration.
We've seen this case before. It was in the Supreme Court. It's something that the voters adopted in 2004, which says that is part of a package of voting things. In order to register to vote in Arizona, you have to prove that you're a citizen by bringing proof of citizenship, birth certificate, something like that. The federal government in the late 90s, I think, passed what they call the motor voter law to make it as easy as possible to register, because as we know from the last election, not too many people vote. And it says you can register to vote in federal elections by just saying you're a citizen and swearing under penalty of perjury that you are. And the question is whether Arizona can enforce its own law on people who vote in federal elections. That issue went to the Supreme Court a couple of years ago, and the Supreme Court decided that the state law was preempted by the federal law, because the federal law says you could, this is only federal elections we're talking about,
right.
Congress and Senate and the President, because the federal law says you can register by just swearing you're a citizen. But the Supreme Court opinion was written by Justice Scalia, and he said at the end, he said Arizona doesn't have to worry because they can go to the Federal Election Assistance Commission, which administers these things, and ask them to change the rules for Arizona. And if they don't change the rules, then they can appeal under the Administrative Procedure Act. And everybody thought he was saying, well, of course, Arizona will get what it wants. Kansas is in the same position. Well, they went to the commission, and the commission wrote a fairly long opinion explaining that they weren't going to change it because the only reason for changing it would be if Arizona needed this in order to enforce its requirement that people be citizens in order to vote. And the commission executive director, I think, wrote the thing, said there are 5 other ways that they could enforce that. They don't need to have that, and therefore we're not going to give them the authority. And so then they went to a district court on review, and the district court agreed with Arizona and said, no, you have to do this. But the 10th Circuit just said a few days ago, that no, you don't have to do that. It's a matter for the discretion of the commission, and they decide, and they had plenty of evidence to back up their decision, and so they don't have to change it. So I assume that the state will now try to take that to the Supreme Court as a follow-up to the case before.
All right, last one here, the third one, and this involves Supreme Court Justice Kennedy, who blocked the Ninth's decision on bails for undocumented folks. What's this all about?
This is a really interesting and difficult case, and important because I don't think this has ever come up before. The people of Arizona in 2006 adopted a constitutional amendment which says that illegal aliens who are charged with serious felonies, which has been defined basically as any felony, may never be released on bail just because they're illegal. You don't do any individualized determination of the likelihood that they're going to show up or not. And that was challenged, and the Ninth Circuit just held en banc, it's a court of 11 judges, in a 9-2 decision that was unconstitutional. You would think that you would decide that case under the Eighth Amendment, which says that there shall be no excessive bail. That seems to suggest that there's a right to bail. But the Supreme Court has not enforced that. And instead, this case was decided, and other similar cases have been decided under the Due Process Clause. Is it a permissible interference with liberty to keep somebody in jail who hasn't been convicted because you think they're not going to show up for the hearing? And the Ninth Circuit said, you have a compelling interest to do that, but it's got to be narrowly tailored. And to be narrowly tailored, you have to look at each individual and decide whether that individual creates a flight risk. And if they do, you don't have to give them bail, or you can give them very, very large bail. But if somebody comes in who's accused of, say, a fairly moderate felony, say stealing $3,000 or something like that, and he's lived here for 25 years, has a family here, he has a business here, he's illegal, but he has lots of ties to the community, then there's no reason that you need to deny bail to that kind of a person.
So the Ninth made their decision. Why did Justice Kennedy block it?
Well, so the state wants to go to the Supreme Court, wants to petition the Supreme Court. They asked the Ninth Circuit to delay its decision. It refused. So they go to Justice Kennedy, who's the circuit judge, and ask him. And what he did was he said, I will stay it for a few days to give the other side, the people who won in the Ninth Circuit, a chance to respond. And they were supposed to do that on Monday. I assume they did, and we have heard nothing from Justice Kennedy. He said after he sees that, he'll decide whether to extend the stay, whether to refer it to the court. The court has a conference tomorrow, and I assume that he will refer it to the court at the conference. So we should find out tomorrow afternoon whether the Supreme Court's going to stay the Ninth Circuit decision. If they stay the Ninth Circuit decision, I think there's a very good chance they will grant cert and reverse the Ninth Circuit decision.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it would be an important constitutional case about the right. Remember, people who are arrested have not been convicted.
Right.
So they are presumptively entitled to be free until they're convicted. And the only reason for keeping them is that they pose a special danger. Well, the Ninth Circuit said you have to prove it as to each individual. You just can't assume that everyone in that category poses the danger.
All right. Good stuff. Good to have you here. We'll keep an eye on what's happening.
Arizona in the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
You gotta watch it.
Get the inside scoop on what's happening at Arizona PBS. Become an 8 Insider. You'll receive weekly updates on the most anticipated upcoming programs and events. Get the 8 Insider delivered to your email inbox. Visit azpbs.org to sign up today.
Arizona has a newly elected superintendent of public instruction. She is Diane Douglas, and her victory surprised many political observers who did not think a single issue candidate with little statewide name recognition would win. Diane Douglas indeed won, and she joins us now on Arizona Horizon. Congratulations on your win. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Ted, thank you for having me back.
I think there are a lot of people out there who even now are saying, who is Diane Douglas? Who are you?
Diane Douglas is a woman that believes so strongly about the importance of the education of our children. I've spent the last 20 years studying it, involved with it, serving on school boards, serving on private boards, because the most important thing we do is educate our children to make sure they have the blessings that America has to offer.
The critics, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it, or sure you've heard of it, you've been called everything from a dunce to Evan Meekum on steroids, something along those. What do you think of that kind of criticism?
Those critics haven't even sat down and spoken with me, so how much credit do I give them?
Not much, apparently.
Not much.
But
you know what? I put my faith in the voters of Arizona, and I thank them very much for their support.
You didn't engage much in public forums. You did debate twice here on Arizona Horizon, the Clean Elections debates, but those were things that were required by clean elections. Why not more engagement in those public forums?
Because the important thing to me was being out and speaking with the voters, and we did plenty of that. Obviously, we spoke to enough voters that our message got out loud and clear, and that was our chosen way to engage.
Some of your critics say that you were afraid to debate.
I was not afraid to debate. I think we sat here at this table and I debated very handily.
Your plans to oversee the state's role in education. This is a big job and it's an important job. What are those plans?
First of all, we're not going to, as some of my critics have alluded, walk in and just rip things out. We're going to be very thorough and methodical. Now that we have learned that I've won the election, we're going to put a transition team in place, as any responsible candidate or elected official elect would do so. So absolutely, we're going to look at where is the department now, what are the things that we think are needed. One of the important things to me is that the superintendent of public instruction is the only elected member of our otherwise appointed State Board of Ed. I look forward to having a voice on that board and being a voice for the parents because they've been left out to this point.
As far as your victory, you've stated that your victory was, quote, clearly a mandate. Do you believe it was a close win, 50.55, something like that? Only less than 40% even turned out to vote. You still think that's a mandate?
Absolutely.
How come?
If we had been on equal footing, I was outspent in independent expenditure money almost 700 to 1. We got our message out. We got our message out to the parents, and those are the people that were at the polls and they were voting, and they said yes, they want a change in direction in education in Arizona.
Why are you so against Common Core?
Because we've been sold nothing but a marketing plan for it. First of all, and I believe I said this last time we were here, we know that education is a local issue. We need to decide what's best for the children of Arizona, and we need to do it in ways that are proven. You know, Ted, I was looking this morning at the NAEP report that came out. I think it just came out within the last few days. And it actually said prior to Common Core, Arizona was doing very well and we were progressing in our education, but yet for some reason we've taken it apart. That's not in the best interest of our Arizona children.
But there are those in and out of the education establishment, in and out of the business community, who think that Common Core as it stands, as opposed to Ames, as opposed to previous tests, is the best way for Arizona students not only to improve, but to compete and find out how well they're doing against students in other states and around the world.
They're confusing, just like my opponent did when we were here, confusing standards with a test. They're two very different things. The Ames test was a failure for Arizona because we allowed it to be dumbed down and down and down. But our standards were always rated very highly. And we knew what they were. We knew we had the ability to change them. If we didn't think they were quite right, we could fix them. Now we have something that's totally out of our control. And quite frankly, the people who are supporting them are saying nothing but marketing slogans, and they have nothing to back it up.
They're saying that replacing Common Core would be unnecessarily costly.
putting Common Core in will be unnecessarily costly.
Is it not in already?
No, it is not fully implemented.
But it is implemented.
In bits and pieces, in parts and places.
And we just got the test approved too, did we not?
Oh, what an interesting process that was. A closed-door discussion in an executive session, and then the State Board of Ed comes out and has no public discussion and just takes a vote. That's not the way I'll see the Department of Education run. When I come in, Ted, there's going to be openness and there's going to be transparency in decision-making.
If that openness and that transparency includes, as many say, and including your critics and even folks that aren't necessarily all that critical of you, they're saying they like Common Core. They like what they see from Common. Forget about where it comes from. Forget about any nefarious plan underneath it. They like what they see in the standards, and they think that testing on those standards makes sense. Would you agree to that?
That's not what the voters of Arizona have said, and those are the people to whom I answer.
So you would not, if you were presented with A, B, C, and Common Core, you still would take A, B, or C?
If they prove to me Common Core is truly superior, which they have not built a case, they have done nothing but use catchphrases to lead us to believe that it's better. If it were truly better, and the evidence we're seeing and the evidence that's being reported from our parents in the classroom is that it's clearly not, then we're doing the wrong thing by our children, and that's what matters, our children.
So what do you replace Common Core with? If you had and granted, I think everyone now realizes you can't just walk in there and scratch off Common Core. I mean, that's something you can't do personally. You can lead the crusade.
And I never said I could. The media said I could.
Indeed, but just so we know that you can't just walk in there and flip a switch and it's gone. If you could, what would you replace it with?
I would replace it with standards that have been proven and tested, and we have several options. Our own Arizona state standards were ranked very highly when they were ranked independently. We know Massachusetts had excellent standards. Those were the standards that were putting Massachusetts children right up there with all the countries we claim to want to compete with. We need to do things that we know are in the best interests of our children. But the reality is, we know, and I've always recognized that I had to work with others to get it done. Now we have Governor-elect Ducey. He does not support the Common Core standards. We have a legislature that knows that this was done basically behind their backs. This was done by the State Board of Ed, not with the open discussion that the election process brings.
Do you understand why people were complaining for not appearing at debates and forums and then being a single issue candidate, and now not going ahead with something that a lot of folks in education like with Common Core? Do you appreciate their arguments?
First of all, who are all of these people? We've literally traveled the state, and teachers have told me, please get us out from under this. These are the classroom teachers. These are the people we should be listening to, not the academics, and I used this term before, the ivory tower elite, who tell us what we must accept for our children. Parents know what's best for their children.
Last question on this, and we appreciate you coming on. You mentioned ivory tower before, I think in the debate. There are some who suggest that the education chief of Arizona should not be so negative on those who have achieved higher education success. How do you respond to that?
I have the utmost respect for our classroom teachers, because they're the ones that are in there day in and day out. They are the ones that make learning that come alive for the children. People that have not spent time in the classroom, and I mean classroom with our children, not with their own peers. And they've not had to make a budget on a school board or not had to make the tough decisions. Those are not the people who are going to serve us the best in education, in my opinion, and obviously in the opinion of the voters of Arizona.
Well, at least among the voters that voted, that's for sure. But last question again, I want to rephrase this. Are you not belittling folks in higher education who get advanced degrees? I mean, that's the impression that some see.
I respect their work, the direction they've chosen to go. I don't believe they're necessarily the right people to be making decisions. We've had the control of our education system or we've had our education system under the control of the colleges of education and their beliefs and philosophies for a very long time, but yet our education system is not where it should be. Now we're going to turn the corner. We're going to work towards getting parents and classroom teachers with the emphasis they need to have, because they're the ones that know how to get it right.
More so than those with the advanced degrees and the people that studied it.
I think we can look at 50 years of history.
It's good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's been a pleasure to be here, Ted. Thank you so much.
Tonight's look at Arizona sustainability issues focuses on a new climate change report that warns of higher than ever greenhouse gases and how those gases are currently impacting everyone on Earth. James Anderson of ASU's Global Institute of Sustainability was one of 7 scientists chosen to talk about the report. Jim, good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
The UN Intergovernmental Panel, UNIP, what is
IPCC,
what is all
Intergovernmental
that?
Panel. So it's a combination of the World Meteorological Organization and the United Nations. And the reports were written by over 800 scientists across the world. And this new report is a synthesis of actually 3 larger reports that appeared in the past year. So it's an attempt to summarize and combine 3 different aspects of climate change.
And what does the report say?
So the report says, as you mentioned in the beginning, that greenhouse gases are increasing and their impacts and risks are increasing. There's clear observations of that. Some of the perhaps surprising elements to maybe the general population is that most of the impacts are in terms of severe weather, the rising of sea level, the gradual rising of sea level, and the warming of the surface waters of the ocean. So, and then in terms of rather moderate temperature rise in the atmosphere, things like rising snow lines and impact on snowpack.
And again, now the report says this is because of the higher greenhouse gases, because
Right.
the critics will look at this and say it's cyclical, it's Mother Nature doing its thing. This happens time and again over the eons.
Okay, so we have records of the atmospheric composition from ice cores that go back 800,000 years. This is Greenland and Antarctic, and the rise in the past a little over 100 years is unprecedented in that 800,000 year period. So, and there are tools that we use, like the stable isotopes of carbon, which tell us that the added carbon is coming from fossil fuel combustion. So the science is well established that we've gone long past the controversy stage in the scientific community.
I was going to say, but not in the general public. It is
Right.
still very controversial. So how do you approach that?
Well, that's one of the reasons I'm here. We need to translate from these technical documents, and these IPCC reports are very technical and hard for an intelligent layperson to get into. And I would suggest that if somebody wants to read it, they would start with what's called the summary for policymakers of the synthesis report, which is available at the IPCC website. You just,
IPCC.com or
well, it's
.org?
no, it's not. If you search for IPCC and synthesis report, it'll show up.
Okay, all right. And does the report give plans to attack this, viable alternatives?
It talks about scenarios. It talks about two things. First of all, one of the key findings is that we're so far along that mitigation alone, the reduction of the greenhouse gases, is not viable by itself. We have to do that, but we also need to be seriously thinking about adaptation at this point. There are a lot of changes going on. Some of those changes, like the Arctic sea ice, are going to be very difficult to reverse if the Greenland ice cap starts to melt. It's melting, it's reducing by melting a little bit now, but if that accelerates, we have big problems.
We have big problems. We have about 30 seconds left here, though. What do we take from the report? Some will say we have big problems where human beings will handle the problems when they come splashing ashore.
Well, you know, you can pay me now or you can pay me later. And that's the fundamental message. The longer we wait, the more it's going to cost, and the more problems that we'll have.
Are more people paying attention to this, do you think?
I hope so, and that's why we have this Climate Voices program that I'm part of, climatevoices.org. There's a network of speakers that people can contact and speak in public, to public groups.
All right. Well, Jim, it's good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thursday on Arizona Horizon, the latest Arizona Town Hall looks at the state's stagnant job recovery numbers, and we'll hear from the author of a new book that combines hiking with dining. That's Thursday evening, 5:30 and 10 on the next Arizona Horizon. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.